and it was a disaster. I mean, I can't. I'll say I can say it. I can say this from my own. I was a wreck at that point. I don't think I was cool until I got. I don't think I was okay mentally, or at least I thought I was okay mentally to until I got out of my service school and went to my first place of duty. And even then I wasn't okay.
Mm.
You know, you think you're okay when everything passes. And I say this to some brothers that I talk to all the time. You think you're okay when everything passes.
Yes.
When all those emotions flood in you and then they pass over you and they pass through you. You think you're okay when those things when it passes. But there's still residue there. Remnants of the
Yes.
anxiety, of the PTSD, the anger, the disappointment, the hurt, all there's residue still there. That residue still lingers, and then that residue builds back up into those emotions you thought that you buried a long time ago.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because you think the further you've gotten away from that pain or that trauma, you think, okay, it doesn't affect me. And that's what I told people, that's one of the biggest things I learned when I wrote my book. Is it's like I did not understand what I was going through until I took time to really write my book, because I was under that same impression, like, hey, that was the past, that was years ago, that doesn't affect me. But like, it's like that old adage, wherever you go, there you are. So it's like, if you
Exactly.
still have the residue, as you said, of the trauma and that pain, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years, 10 years, or 50 years. It'll still affect you if you don't take the time to process what you went through and learn how you can heal from that. So yeah, and I think that's the thing we've been kind of taught as men, where it's like, hey, we just shake it off. Like you said, put some dirt on it. Of course, that's talking about like physical pain, but we do the same thing like with emotional pain. Like, hey, I'm gonna just bury that, never deal with that, and it's gonna be okay. But it's like until you take the time to understand what you went through, yeah, it'll still follow you wherever you go, if you don't take the time to learn from it.
For sure, for sure. One of the things I've talked, and I've said this with a good friend of mine. It goes back to it goes back to looking at the little boy that's inside of you. There's
Mm,
a little boy and there's a little girl that dwells in all of us as human beings, whether it's a little boy that dwells in us as men, and there's a little girl that dwells in females as women. You have to go back to that little boy that's inside of us and, of course, acknowledge acknowledge what you've subjected that little boy to, of course. But in the same instance, instead of trying to, slap band-aids on all these wounds and whatever stages of healing they're in, instead of trying to slap band-aids on it, just embrace that little boy and apologize. I'm sorry that I put subjected you to all this hurt and all this pain, all these things in my life that I subjected you to. I'm sorry. And then to me, confronting that little boy and apologizing to that little boy, that's the forgiveness part. That's the forgiveness of self part.
yes.
The hard part, the even harder part is seeking the forgiveness of others. And I ain't gonna lie, that was a hard part for me. Forgiveness of self was somewhat of a difficult journey, but asking other people to forgive me, and then asking, you know, forgiveness from other people, and or asking people to give me forgiveness, dude. That was rough, and it was a hard journey. And again, and and for me, mental health begins with that part of it. Looking inside yourself, seeing what parts of you are broken, and doing your very best to fix those parts. It don't got to be perfect. A lot of people, one of the misconceptions I think when people, especially when us as brothers, when we talk about healing ourselves, we figure it's got to be perfect or it can't happen. No, no, dude, it don't got to be perfect. It don't got to be perfect. As long as you're doing the work to build to make that